Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining Equal Justice Works today for our first ever virtual regional event for students who attend schools in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast region. We're so thankful that you're joining us today. My name is Brooke Meckler, and I am the director of the Law School Engagement and Advocacy Unit at Equal Justice Works. And I'm so happy to see how many people are participating in this event. So this event is really designed to highlight all of the different opportunities that Equal Justice Works offers public interest law students. And we hope that you will learn a lot today about our different programs and apply and participate in some of them as well. So this event is meant to be both informative and interactive. Informative because I'm going to start with an overview presentation to introduce you to all of the programs and resources that we offer, and interactive because after that overview presentation, we will break out into different sessions so that you can learn more about all of those different programs. So in the first set of concurrent sessions, you can learn more about our student opportunities with me because I am lucky enough to run all of our law student programs, but I'll also be joined by students who are participating in our program so they can share their experience with you. Or you can attend a session where you're able to meet with Equal Justice Works fellows and alumni, and they'll share information about what it's like to be an Equal Justice Works fellow and the amazing impact that they were able to have in their own fellowships. The next, I was going to apologize in advance for my dog. She's very small, but she's very loud. I'm sure many of you have similar issues, so I'm sorry. We just got some mail. The second set of concurrent sessions will give students an opportunity to meet with your regional portfolio manager. And your portfolio manager is the person who is in charge of all of the design your own fellowships in your region. So we are very lucky to be joined by Shireen and Krista during those sessions. And you can ask questions about project design, about partnering with a host organization, and again, what it's like to be an Equal Justice Works fellow. And if you are someone who works at a law school and you're joining us today, we hope that you'll stick around for our law school professional meetup that will be facilitated by Ashley and Kiva, members of our National Advisory Committee. And you can talk with each other about how Equal Justice Works can best support you and your law school in public interest. All right, so before we jump in, I do want to take a quick poll of who we have joining us today. So if everybody will be so kind as to fill out the poll that I just put up and let me know what class year you're in so that we can get a good sense of who's joining in today. All right, it is, I don't know if anybody's done polls before, but it is so fun to see the results come in real time. All right, so let's get these results out. So it looks like we have a good mix, mostly 1Ls and 2Ls, and a couple of law school professionals. Thank you so much for answering that. So we have a good sense of who's tuning in. And you can see those results right there. And then another thing I want to ask everyone to do, I'm assuming that many of you are listening in today because you are passionate about public service and you went to law school because you want to pursue a career in a certain area of public interest law. So I would love it if you would type in what area of public interest law you're most passionate about. Why did you go to law school? Where do you want your legal career to go? Is it criminal justice reform? Is it working with immigrant and refugee communities? Let me know what that is by typing it in the chat. And feel free to do that as I keep talking about Equal Justice Works. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Equal Justice Works, we're a nonprofit organization. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., but we are, partners with legal aid organizations and other partners all across the country to facilitate and fund opportunities for both law students and fellows. And our mission is to create opportunities for lawyers to transform their passion for equal justice into a lifelong commitment to public service. And as I'm saying this, I'm seeing all of the different issue areas come in: disability rights, economic justice, immigration, consumer protection. Wow, this is all really amazing. And I will say that every single issue area that I'm seeing, we have a fellow out in the field right now working on a project that impacts that issue area. So you are already sounding like Equal Justice Works fellows. So, moving on from our mission, Equal Justice Works, sort of in a nutshell, is the facilitator of the largest postgraduate program in the country for fellowships. We have 200 fellows out in the field at the moment. We work with 190 member law schools. We work with hundreds of students every year across the country. Dozens of students participate in our summer programs, and we have over 2,000 alumni, so people who have gone through our programs and are part of our network. So as you can tell, it's a very vast network, and we're so happy and so thrilled to invite you and include you in that network going forward. So I was going to warn you about my dog. She's already revealed herself. That's as loud as she gets. But I did also want to let everyone know that you're welcome to ask questions throughout the presentation. Please feel free to type that in the chat. For the most part, the interactive part of this event will be when we break out into those sessions. So feel free to save the questions for those sessions as well. And then also this is being recorded. It's only being recorded so that we can share it with students who weren't able to make any of the regional events. It won't be used for any other purpose. So just wanted to get those housekeeping items out there before we jump into some of the opportunities. So Equal Justice Works for law students. I am going to review the ways that you can get involved as a law student right now. And that's by joining our network, by serving on your campus, by serving in a summer position, and by attending more regional events. So the easiest way that you can become involved with Equal Justice Works is through joining our network. And it's very easy to do that. If you haven't done so already, you can just sign up on our website. There's a very quick form, and you'll immediately get access to all of the different program information that we send out, as well as applications for the opportunities that we offer. You'll get newsletters with all of that information. And within those newsletters, you can also sign up for webinars. And the webinars that we host are completely free. They're all recorded so that you can listen to them after the fact. And they focus on different areas of public interest law that we think are important to students. So managing your student debt, interviewing skills for public interest positions, those types of topics are what we cover with our webinars. We also offer different resources like guides and other ways for you to pursue public interest careers. We, of course, have different events, as well as scholarships, contests, and awards that you can apply for so that you can really build your public interest resume while you're a law student. Another sort of perk that we offer is personalized advice. So if you're someone who wants to learn more about a fellowship opportunity or a law student opportunity, and you want to talk to somebody on our law school engagement and advocacy team, we are so happy to do that. We love talking to students and would be happy to set up a call with you so we can talk about where you want to go in your legal career. Another way that you can become involved with Equal Justice Works is by serving on your campus. And there are two ways that you're able to do that. The first one is through our student representative program. And student representatives are students who are chosen to represent Equal Justice Works on their law school campuses based on a demonstrated dedication to public interest law. And students who are a part of this program are really ambassadors on their law school campuses and become the go-to person, not only for Equal Justice Works programming, but for public interest law generally. So student reps spread the word about Equal Justice Works and share information about all of our different programs. And it's an opportunity to really develop and strengthen your leadership skills and gain access to different trainings and networking events that we provide, and really build a community for other public interest law students on your campus. Student reps plan initiatives, and we're happy to help plan those initiatives alongside you. And this program really gives you an exposure to Equal Justice Works in an elevated way. Applications are accepted year-round, but we typically bring on student reps during the summer so that you can start serving on your campus that next semester and serve the full year. And student representatives really do what they want with the program, but it is a really great thing to add to your resume and really build sort of your public interest experience and create a connection with a nonprofit like Equal Justice Works. This is one of the student programs that you can learn more about in the student session after this presentation. Another way that you can become involved with Equal Justice Works on your campus is through our National Advisory Committee. And our National Advisory Committee, or the NAC, is made up of 8 students and 8 law school professionals from across the country that provide guidance and strategic advice to Equal Justice Works on how to really resonate with the law school community and how we can expand public interest law opportunities for students. With this program and with this committee, you're able to assist in outreach for Equal Justice Works programs and events. You help us plan initiatives, you brainstorm different ways that we can help law students really pursue public interest careers, and you get to network and connect with law students and people who work at law schools from across the country. New members are selected each spring, and each National Advisory Committee member serves a 2-year term. For your regions, we actually have a position opening up for the Northeast this coming term. So when the application is open, please apply if this is something that you're interested in. The application requires you to answer some prompt questions so we can understand your interest in the program and in Equal Justice Works, and this is a great opportunity for you to become more involved. In the student session after this presentation, we will have one of our National Advisory Committee members, Michael, joining us, and he will be very happy to answer any questions you have about serving on a committee like this. Moving into other ways that you can represent your region and be highlighted within your region. The first one that I'll talk about is the Regional Public Interest Awards. These awards identify and honor law students who have provided extraordinary service in some way, shape, or form on their law school campus or in their community. So if you're somebody who has, really devoted a lot of time to public interest, to working at your law school clinic, to serving your community, to serving clients, please write about it. We want to hear about it, and we want to give you an award for it. So we award 8 law students across the country with this award. And not only do you receive a physical award, but you also get $250, and we highlight you on all of our social media. We put you on our website, and we're just so proud to show the whole public interest community what great work you've done in public interest law. The application's opened today. And the application itself really just requires a personal statement about the work that you've done in public interest and why you think you deserve this award. And you can apply until the 26th of March. So you have about a month to put that statement together. If you're somebody who's not ready to apply for this award, but you know someone on your campus or at your school who really is deserving of this, you can always nominate them. You can email us at students@equaljusticeworks.org if you want to nominate another student. Give us their email address so that we can touch base with them, but feel free to do that. And if you're somebody from a law school listening in, please nominate your students, or at least tell them that this award exists, because again, a great thing to add to your resume that you've won a national award for the work that you've done in public interest. And as you know, because you're attending one right now, we have virtual events. This is the first year that we've been offering these virtual events because we are looking for ways to more connect and engage with students while everybody's working remotely and going to school remotely. So we will be having another event like this in April. It will be on April 2nd. I see that the date isn't actually there, but it'll be on April 2nd from noon to 2 Eastern Standard, and it will be more focused on our fellowship. So we'll really dive into what it means to apply for a fellowship, both if you join one of our cohort programs that we'll talk about in a little bit, or if you want to design your own project, and that registration will be open soon. All right, and one of the major offerings from Equal Justice Works is our conference and career fair. So this is the largest national public interest career fair in the country, and it gives students the opportunity to not only have real formal one-on-one interviews with employers who are looking to hire for both law student and postgraduate positions, but also an opportunity for you to learn a lot about public interest law through different conference sessions, through table talks with different employers, and through just seeing how many different opportunities are out there for people who are interested in public service. In 2021, the dates will be from October 21st to 23rd, and it will be all virtual for this upcoming year. Last year, we were able to welcome so many students from all across the country. We were so happy that it was so accessible because the sort of the travel and the accommodations that are usually involved with attending a fair like this didn't really come into play because you could do it from your own home. We had over 150 employers in attendance from across the country, and they conducted those pre-scheduled interviews and were able to informally talk with students about the different opportunities at their organization. And we had really incredible conference sessions facilitated by public interest leaders all across the country. Those topics were on immigration, disability law, racial justice, transgender rights, and more. And we were very happy and thrilled to welcome Eric Holder as our keynote speaker last year. And he was able to really inspire students who attended. Registration for the Conference and Career Fair opens in August. Again, if you sign up to receive all of our newsletters and all of our information, we will send that information right to you so that you do not miss the registration deadlines. And if you become a student representative, you can attend the Conference and Career Fair at no cost. For students who are attending, it's a $25 fee. All right, so moving into how you can gain experience with Equal Justice Works through a summer position. I will preface by saying that the application periods for both of the positions that I'm going to talk about have already closed, but I want to review them because I'm sure there are people on the line today who have applied for the program, and I'll go into more detail of what it will be like if you're selected. And you can always apply for these programs next year, especially if you're a 1L listening in and either of these opportunities sound like something you'd like to get experience on. So starting with the Rural Summer Legal Corps, this is one of my favorite programs at Equal Justice Works. We partner with Legal Services Corporation on this program, and we can place 35 law students in rural communities across the country to work on discrete projects that were designed specifically for those students to get a great experience in public interest law. Each site that hosts a student during this summer and during past summers focus on a different project area, but each one, and I'll refer back to some of the different issue areas that everyone is interested in. Each one of these different projects focuses on a very discrete part of public interest law. So there's housing projects, family law, responding to the opioid crisis, working with migrant farm workers. There are just so many different projects, and the students that work on these are building such capacity at the organizations where they're serving. Each student that participates in this program gets a $5,000 stipend for 300 hours of service. And at the beginning of the summer, you're able to connect with all of the different fellows who are participating during a training that happens at the beginning of the summer. Last year it was virtual. This year it will also be virtual, but it's still a great way to connect with the other students who are participating in the program and participate in workshops and trainings and other ways to prepare you for not only your summer of service, but for your legal career generally. Again, the applications for 2021 are already closed. If you did apply, I'll let you know that only a handful of host sites have selected their students so far. So if you haven't been contacted by the host organization of your choice, it's very likely that you will still be contacted for an interview. Feel free to ask us about any host site and see if they did select a fellow so that you're not waiting on that information if you do have to decide between the Rural Summer Legal Corps and another position for this upcoming summer. And this is just a snapshot of the different states that have host organizations this summer. So you can see roughly half of the country has a host site hosting a law student this summer. All right, the other student program that we're offering this summer is the Disaster Resilience Program. And this is an opportunity for students to work alongside Equal Justice Works fellows in the field on disaster recovery. The fellows who are already in the field are working on projects that are really responding to Harvey and Irma hurricanes from a couple of years ago. And the work that they're doing really range in, in assistance and application of all different types of law. This is also an 8 to 10 week placement, 300 hours of service, and you receive a $5,000 stipend for your work. There will also be other meetups and trainings throughout the summer focused on disaster and other areas of law. With these host sites, we do not have any selections yet. So if you did apply for this program and you haven't been contacted, it's likely because that host site hasn't started interviews, but they will let us know who will be selected by March 20th. So if you did if you did apply for the program, you should know by then whether or not you've been selected. All right, and this is a much more narrow map. The only opportunities we have in this program this summer is in Texas and in Florida. All right, moving on to the student debt resources that we offer law students and lawyers. At Equal Justice Works, we're very well aware of how important it is that law students graduating from law school can afford public interest careers. So we provide a lot of resources to ensure that you're able to afford these careers. And these are all free. So ways that you can get student debt resources now and once you graduate are through a couple of different means. So you can receive our monthly debt-focused newsletter. It's a very short read, but it has links to different webinars and different resources that you can use to really help manage your student debt. We also have a very comprehensive ebook on our website that you can download and read. And that is also a good guide on how to manage certain aspects of your student debt. You can participate in our monthly webinars. We have one hosted at the end of every month that reviews income-driven repayment plans, how to earn public service loan forgiveness, how to enroll in loan repayment assistance programs. And you can either attend one of those or register for one, and you'll get a recording of the webinar afterwards. It's definitely a good thing to listen to while you're still in school so that you can prepare for your debt management after you graduate from law school. And then you can also stay up to date with legislation surrounding public service loan forgiveness, because we are very connected and involved with the Coalition to Preserve Public Service Loan Forgiveness. And a website that you can use to stay up to date is preservepslf.com. And if you want to get more involved in that coalition and take more action, you can always text PSLF to 40649, and you'll immediately get information about how you can take action, how you can call your representative, and what you might say to be vocal about keeping public service loan forgiveness around for public service employees. All right, so I'm gonna see if there's any questions coming in about any of those law student programs. Again, feel free to join sessions after this presentation to ask those questions or type them in now. And if not, I will move into what it means to become an Equal Justice Works Fellow. And before I talk about the ways that you can become an Equal Justice Works Fellow, I do want to define what it means through Equal Justice Works to be a fellow. So a fellowship is a specific project that you're working on, either designed by Equal Justice Works or designed by you. And it's called a fellowship because it's not a permanent position for after you graduate. It's a term position, and each of our fellowships are 2-year positions. It's a full-time, full salary position. It's a full-time job, but it does have that end date. And that's why, you'll see a fellowship position different than maybe a staff attorney or a permanent position at an organization because of that term, and usually because of where the funding comes from. So there are 2 different ways that you can become an Equal Justice Works Fellow. The first way is by joining a fellowship program. And to join a fellowship program, essentially what's happening is that Equal Justice Works has taken a look at the legal landscape and has identified a need that really needs to be filled. So an unmet need in the legal community. We design a program to put a cohort of fellows into the field, all working on the same issue area at the same time so that they can all have the greatest impact. And so you're working on a designated priority issue. Because this project is already designed, you will apply for the fellowship and be interviewed and selected by the host organization who will be hosting you as a fellow. And because Equal Justice Works has really identified this need as being immediate and urgent, the way that these fellowships work is that the hiring happens pretty quickly. So once the fellowship is posted, the interviews happen and the selections happen pretty quickly, and we need fellows out in the field. So a good example of this are the Disaster Resilience Program fellows that we have out in the field right now. That response to those hurricanes needed to be so immediate so that clients could be helped right away. So what that means is that when you apply, it's likely that you will already have had to either taken the bar exam or pass the bar exam so that you can get into the field right away. And with these different programs, you'll see exactly what those requirements are before you apply. The nice part about these programs is that you don't have to worry about applying for them while you're in law school, because you do need to be a practicing lawyer in some cases so that you can get out into the field as soon as possible. On the flip side, the other way that you can become an Equal Justice Works Fellow is by designing your own fellowship. And this is the opportunity for you to really design your dream job for after you graduate from law school. And because this is project-based, and because this is you identifying an unmet need that you've seen in the legal community and then building a project to fill that need, we're able to control the timeline a little bit differently than with the other fellowship program. So you'll work with your prospective host organization to design a project and submit that application typically in your third year of law school. And interviews are then conducted by Equal Justice Works staff and selected sponsors that year, with the idea that you'll go through the selection process during your third year of law school, take the bar exam, and then jump right into your fellowship that next September. So digging into the details a little bit further on joining a fellowship program, this is sort of a step-by-step way. Sure, go ahead.
Question: will this be taped so I can go back and listen to it?
Yes, it's being recorded, and we can share it with you after. If you want to email,
will it be taped so I can?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I think you're putting
class.
Yes, at the end of the
by 6 o'clock.
Yes, for anyone who needs to leave because you have a class or you have another engagement, please feel free to do that because it is being recorded. My email will be up at the end, and if you want to email me and let me know that you need the recording, I can send it to you, immediately upon receiving it from Zoom.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. I will 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Great. All right, so in terms of joining a fellowship program, again, this is a step-by-step way for you to make sure that you're applying for it in the way that we expect. So first, learn about our programs. The fellowship programs are sort of revealed on a rolling basis, depending on our funding and depending on the need in the legal community. Once you find one that really suits your interests, you select that program, view the list of organizations that are hosting fellows, and apply to that host organization directly, because that organization will interview and select the person who best fits their organization's work style. So the current fellowship programs that we have out in the field right now are the Disaster Resilience Program that I mentioned earlier. We also have an Elder Justice Program that is addressing the gap in civil legal services for victims of elder abuse and exploitation. And then we also have a Housing Justice Program where fellows are providing legal assistance, referrals, and full representation for tenants in support of safe, fair, and affordable housing. And that is narrowed into the Richmond area because of, if anybody's familiar with sort of the eviction crisis in Richmond, then you'll know like how big of a need that really was. And they're doing amazing work in housing right now. So like I mentioned, the fellowship program is a full-time job with a salary, with benefits. Even though there is that end date, it is a full-time job until you end your fellowship. So those are all covered. You also get to participate in our leadership development training, which brings together all of our fellows, both in our cohort programs and in our Design Your Own Fellowship program, to participate in workshops and trainings and networking events to really prepare and feel good about being an Equal Justice Works Fellow. What's also great about these programs, the cohort programs, is that you have a built-in network of practitioners who are working on a similar issue area as you. And so you can always turn to them if you have questions about a particular area that you're working on or with a client, because they might be experiencing a similar legal issue. All right, and like I mentioned earlier, it is a very unique opportunity through our Design Your Own Fellowship program to really design your dream job for after you graduate from law school. And what distinguishes this from other opportunities is that you actually partner with a host organization in advance of submitting your application, and you are already connecting with that organization because they're going to host you throughout the 2 years of your fellowship. And you'll be working on a project that is really needed in that area, at that organization, and in that community. And you'll really work with your organization to flesh out what your project looks like so that you can have the greatest impact. And because this application that you're submitting is really a business proposal outlining the great work that you're going to do for the community, I'm going to go through it sort of component by component so that you have a good understanding of what's involved in applying for a Design Your Own fellowship. Starting with you as the candidate. So to be eligible for the Equal Justice Works Fellowship, you need to graduate by the September that you would be starting the fellowship with either a JD or an LLM. And before you do this fellowship, you can't have had any previous full-time permanent public interest attorney positions. And that's because this fellowship is really designed to launch your public interest career. And you've already been able to do that through obtaining a staff attorney position with a public interest organization, then you won't need this fellowship to do that as well. And the same goes for any participation in sort of major fellowship programs outside of Equal Justice Works. Those typically include Skadden, Echo and Green, Soros. You can absolutely apply for all of these fellowships all at the same time, but if you're chosen for one of those, then you unfortunately can't go back and apply for an Equal Justice Works fellowship after the fact. What's nice about our fellowship program is that we will never ask for your transcript, your GPA, your class rank. Though that sort of information really isn't important in the consideration of your application, because what we really care about is your passion for the community that you're going to be working with, and your understanding of that community, and your knowledge of the issue area that you're going to be focusing on. And that is really what will make you stand out as a candidate. So when it comes to the project itself, a project should be focused on underserved people and or issues in the legal system. And this project should be innovative in that it's really filling a gap in services that doesn't already exist. So this can be a mixture of direct services, of advocacy, of education of either individuals in the community or of attorneys who will be working pro bono to help clients. It can be litigation and, of course, some combination of all of these things. When it comes to what it can't be a public defender position, and it can't be focused on international law. And when it comes to keys to success for this fellowship, think about it as an innovative and sustainable position. So if it looks like a staff attorney position, that means that it's probably something that already exists at the organization, meaning that it wouldn't be an innovative project that there's a need for because it would be new. And when we think about built-in sustainability, it should have the potential to live on after you leave the fellowship, if you leave the organization after your fellowship is completed. And it should be ambitious but feasible, meaning that taking into account the fact that this is a 2-year project is important, so you know that you're meeting some landmarks, but not so ambitious that it's not something that can be implemented while you're there for the 2 years during your fellowship. So what really distinguishes this from other opportunities is that fact that you're partnering with a host organization that's promising to host you throughout the 2 years of your fellowship. To be an eligible nonprofit, an eligible organization, the organization does need to be a nonprofit organization with legal staff. And they have to be established enough that they're capable of providing benefits, health insurance. We say office space, but that isn't really a necessity anymore, but the sort of support that an organization should be able to give you as if you were a staff attorney at that organization. They must also be able to support and supervise new attorneys, meaning that your supervisor at the organization should be a lawyer and should have experience in the area of law that you're going to be focusing on with your project. And of course, because it can't be an international project, it should be based in the United States or its territories. When you think about partnering with a host organization, you want to ensure that your project aligns with the strategic vision and mission of the organization that you're partnering with. And remember that a prior relationship with an organization is always a plus, because you have that built-in trust, you have that built-in knowledge of the organization, and they have knowledge of you as as an employee. And the last component of the fellowship is the sponsor. So we have very generous sponsors from across the country that help fund these fellowships. And they are law firms, corporations, foundations, bar associations, sometimes individuals, sometimes anonymous donors who really believe in the mission of Equal Justice Works. So they help to fund our fellowships. And because they really believe in the mission, there are preferences that come along with the funding provided from our sponsors, meaning that they might want to fund a specific project in a specific geographic area so that the impact is on a community that they really care about. We are very transparent on what those preferences are because we want you to know what they are as you're going through the application process. So as soon as we find out where we believe funding will be sourced for that fellowship cycle, we'll share it with people who are interested in applying for the fellowship. So definitely check our website. Again, if you aren't already on our newsletter list, make sure you're on it so that you will get those updates and you'll know where those preferences are. And here's a quick snapshot of the benefits of the Equal Justice Works Fellowship. Again, full salary. The salary is actually set by the host organization, and it will be similar to that of a starting staff attorney. You get healthcare coverage and other fringe benefits. You also get loan repayment assistance for the 2 years that you're in the fellowship, and you attend the leadership development training that I mentioned earlier. And not only that, but with both fellowship programs, you join a network of so many fellows and alumni. And to be part of this network forever is really such a unique way to start your public interest career. And you really have this built-in sort of community of people who went through the same program and projects that you did. And it's just a great launching pad for your public interest career going forward. For those of you who want to get a better idea of what projects are out there and what has been funded in the past, go to the tab on our website that says Meet Our Fellows, because you can see what host sites have hosted fellows in the past and who is hosting them right now, what those issue areas were, what those projects were, and get a good sense for what we mean by an innovative and impactful project in public interest. So if you're a 2L right now, this is the time for you to start thinking about your project. And what's great about this event is that you can roll right into the session where you can talk to fellows and talk to alumni who have designed these projects. So I will not keep you from that. We're going to finish up in just a second, but this is the timeline that you have to look forward to. The application opens in June and they're due in September. And then our alumni score and review the applications and send them back to our team so that we can then share them with sponsors. And the sponsors alongside Equal Justice Works will interview and select fellows for the upcoming year. And the timeline works in a way that you're able to do that during your 3rd year of law school and be prepared to start your fellowship after graduation. And if you're a 1L, we just sort of move that timeline up a year. You'll apply the September of 2022. And the rest of the timeline basically stays the same.
Oh, and I have a question before I go. Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
You are cutting in and out.
Good.
So do you mind typing it in the chat because your audio is coming in and out?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so hopefully we're getting the question in the chat. But for those of you who are excited to go off and interact with either fellows and alumni or students who are participating in our programs, please feel free to go do that now. What you'll do is go back to that original email that you got last night and join the Zoom room that you'd most like to join. And then do the same, you'll get the same message after that session, but do the same thing for the concurrent sessions after the ones the student and the fellow one. And when it comes to developing a project, make sure if you have any unanswered questions after the very quick overview that I just gave about fellowships, go meet with the regional portfolio managers because they are the experts on fellowships and they can give you such great insight and information about how to be an Equal Justice Works Fellow. I do see that there are some questions coming in. So for those of you who want to go into the breakout sessions, please feel free to do that, but I will answer the questions that are in the chat right now. All right, the first one is, how long does the fellow last and what is the salary? The fellowship is 2 years and it goes, and the typical timeline is the September after you graduate. And then because it lasts for 2 years, it'll be ended by the September 2 years after you've graduated. When it comes to the salary, the supporting payments that Equal Justice Works currently provides is $50,000 towards the host organization's salary for you. But if you're in an area, a geographic area where the standard of living is higher than that, and if you're at an organization where a starting staff attorney salary would be higher than that, then the host organization will have to make up the difference between that $50,000 supporting payment and the amount that their starting staff attorney would have to pay. I did see another question. So the timeline isn't affected by a winter graduation. If you graduate in the winter, you will still apply in September and you will just have graduated earlier than the other people who are applying for the program. So there will obviously be some time between you starting your fellowship and when you actually graduated. That would be different than somebody who graduates in the spring, but the timeline is the same for every single applicant. Sorry. Okay. All right, and I will stick around to see if there are any other questions. For those of you who are still here, this is my email address. You can feel free to email me and ask any question that you have in follow-up to this presentation. But if you do have a question for someone on our fellowships team or someone in another unit, feel free to email me anyway, and I'll make sure that you get to the that it gets to the right person.
I don't have a question. I just want to say, well, it's not the same as seeing you in person. It's so nice to see you.
I know, it's nice to see you too, Sharon. All right, so we are going to sign off of this session and I'll see everyone in the next ones.
Hi, I just have a very quick question. So I just tried to